Odin.
I have many names, many duties. I am the Lord of War, the great Berserker. I am the Lord of the Afterlife, where the brave souls dwell until dread Ragnarok. I am the Lord of Asgard, hearth and castle to the gods of the realms. I am the All-Father. My seed has quickened many, given birth to the Aesir, the gods of the realms. Yet, I am not all that I need to be to face that which is yet to come. I must slacken the fires of my passions, or all will be engulfed in the fires of never-ending war. I must be balanced, to have the wit to choose those who will judge the dead on my behalf. I must show restraint, to not populate all realms with my progeny. I must learn, not just of my own heart and soul. I must learn to master the facets of myself that could lead to my own undoing. And by so doing, I would damn the realms to ice and cold, or worse, to burning Surt and his blade of fire. Asgard now glitters, its halls wide and tall, its people, my Aesir, engaged in its forging. So, now is the time. Now is the moment. I don my blue cape and wide-brimmed hat, and walk the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge. Only Heimdall knows of my destination, and he is sworn to his king, to me. None will hear of my sojourn. I go where I wilt. I am Odin, but I would not have onlookers this time, for I go on a quest. I set out on a mighty task. I intend to grow, to become. I walk the Bifrost and wend my way unto Midgard. There the world is still young, its denizens filled with the glow of new life. I curtail my power, hide it. I walk with long staff to steady myself. Ancient do I appear in the eyes of the mortals. As an old man, I am no threat to their wives or daughters. As a tall man, I am still able to fear the young bucks amongst them, so I need not slay them for their braggartry. I walk amongst them and I hear their songs, see their lives, their loves, their hardiness. Strong are the sons and daughters of Askr and Embla. Fair is their form, so similar to our own. And I hear of their greatest son, the greatest mortal. That man made of the spittle of the gods, both Aesir and the others, the Vanir. At the conclusion of our war, Kvasir has walked the world, has met with Jarls, chieftains of the mortals. He has spread his wisdom far and wide, bringing cheer and good counsel on all matters. Yet, one day, he vanished, and none could find him. Ever is the taint of Ymir in all we made of him, so too is it inside all who dwell in the realms. And his closest kin bar the giants, the dwellers in darkness under his bones, the dwarfs. They have no small part of his spite inside them. Yet there were two who had Ymir's ire in such concentration that they were evil, pure and cold. I heard of these dwarfs, this Fjalar, who is the deceiver, and Galar, who is the screamer, and I set out to link the chains of action. to see what mischief they had wrought. I spoke to all around their home. Then, alone, I walked the path of Aesir, watched on with my mystic sight, witnessing their crimes as they were performed.
It was the dwarves, Fjalar and Galar, who witnessed Kvasir's wisdom and invited him to their home for a repast. Yet, when his stomach was filled and his head-mind becalmed by the bruise given by the dwarves, they waited until he was nodding off when they suddenly struck. They slew him as he sat before their hearth, drawing blades across his throat. The dwarves then held him above a great bowl as his life's blood flowed out. When he was spent, they discarded his body to their dogs. Then they took his blood and brewed a mead called Othrorir, the stirrer of inspiration. It was the mead of poetry, and any who drank this draught would be blessed with a part of Kvasir's wisdom and become a poet or scholar of worth. Yet, this was not all, for evil ran through their veins as does blood to any other, and Fjalar and Galar did not end there, for they now had a taste for murder. On the morrow, they did convince the giant Gilling to go out to sea with them in their long and broad boat, for they said they would catch enough fish to fill he and his wife's bellies for months on end and from the one day of toil. Yet, when they were far from shore and too deep for Gilling to stride back to land, they struck again, and they begged him to go to the prow of the ship and look for giant shoals of fish. But up they snuck and pushed Gilling into the sea from behind. As he fell and struggled in the depths, for he could not swim, did the dwarves both point and chuckle, and Gilling sank unto the bottom of the ocean. When they next came back to land, with bright and beaming eyes, they did tell Gilling's wife of his plight. Witnessing her pain was joy to them, but when she wept unconsolably, it vexed them both with its clangor. And so, they invited her to their hearth for a meal to make distraction from her woe. Again they struck, and as the giantess bent to walk into their home, they dropped a millstone upon her head, shattering her skull and slaying her instantly. But they were not so cautious in this, their thrice-cursed murder. Suttung, the son of Gilling, came to their home, and he smashed down their door, so as not to have to stoop to enter. And he ransacked until he found the dwarves, Fjalar and Galar. He scooped them up and crushed them to pain. Then, as they wailed, he brought them out onto the beach, and Suttung strode out into the shallows and placed the dwarfs on a reef that would soon be submerged. The dwarves fumed and wept, then begged and pleaded for their lives. Yet Suttung would not free them until they told him where the mead of poetry was held. For this he would take as weregeld for his father and mother. So revealed, Suttung took the mead and secreted it deep beneath the mountain Hnitbjörg. He set his giantess daughter, Gunnlod, who is invitation to battle, to watch over the 3 casks of mead. Ever watchful, ever ready, ever vigilant, Gunnlod guarded it day and night.
The vision ends. My eyes open again. The knowledge of the days preceding gained. I hatch my plan. For I shall possess the mead of poetry, or none will. I change my form and attire to match those of the workers of the land. As a young mortal, plain in attire, I stride to the lands of Suttung's brother, Baugi, and there I found 9 farmers scything the hay. When they broke for water, I strolled to them, bright and beaming. From under my now rough and threadbare cloak of blue, I did flourish a whetstone. For free, I sharpened the blades of their scythes. When they all returned to toil, they could see the keenness of their edges, the newfound quality of their tools. At day's end, the workers had hewn twice or thrice what they would usually reap. They would pay me a fine ransom for my whetstone's use. To own it themselves, they said. I nodded my agreement, and all held out their hands. Yet, I chided, you must pay a high price for it. I took steps back and threw the whetstone into the air, and each of the 9 strode forward to claim it. Yet as they moved, they saw the others advance also. Scythes cut through air, slicing through sinew, cleft through bone and neck. And when the whetstone struck the ground, all 9 of them had died of the wounds dealt one another. Then I walked to Baugi's door and knocked on its oaken slats. The giant came forth and demanded my name and meaning. I claimed to be Bolverkir, who is worker of misfortune, and that I had something to show him. He looked me up and down, but followed as I took him to the fields. There did he witness the 9 dead farmhands. I told him of the altercation I did see, how they slew one another over crossed words. Baugi grasped his hair and dragged some out by its roots. He gaped and fumed, for he could not carry home the harvest alone, and Suttung would be wroth with him if he did not fill the tables of their halls to heaving. When he slipped from rage to doldrums, I finally piped up. I stated that I would do the work of all 9, but my price again was high. Baugi lifted his head and looked me deep in the eye and stated I could ask anything of him, if only I could do this thing. And I made him give an oath for my services. If I could bring home the harvest, could do the work of 9, then he would be honor bound to assist me in gaining a sip of Suttung's mead, the mead of wisdom, the mead of poetry. Thinking himself sly, Baugi doubted if I could perform this feat. Yet, were I present when Suttung returned, then he could direct all of his brother's ire on Bolverkir. And so, with false smile and wide eyes, did Baugi confirm our agreement, thinking he would never be the loser, no matter the outcome of our deal. When the full days of growing and harvesting were done, Baugi did return to his farm. There was I, as Bolverkir sat idle as he approached. He puffed himself up at my lack of toil. Yet I took him to his barns, and there showed him the stocks of hay and food stacked to the rafters. Beyond the lines of usual storage were they, for I had indeed done even more than the work of 9. And Baugi was now caught in his own oath. So we went to the harvest celebration put on by his brother Suttung, and all was well. Or it was, until Baugi spoke of his debt. He approached Suttung and explained what I had done, and then he told of the agreement for my payment. A sip from the mead of wisdom. Yet Suttung was incensed, and threw his drinking horn at Baugi, stating that he, Suttung, need not pay for a debt incurred by another. He stated that the Othrior was his alone, and it would not touch the lips of any but he, let alone some thrall of the farmlands. Chastened and embarrassed, Baugi went from the halls of Suttung. I followed him, and reminded him of his oaths to me. And so Loath though he was, Baugi gave me aid. He took us to the mountainside that he deemed closest to the abode of Gunnlod. I gave unto Baugi an auger to break the rock and drill down. Again he demurred, but did as I bade when I again invoked his oath to me. Hard he worked, deep he drilled into the mountainside, and, after much time, he came up again. Yet when I blew into the hole he had bored, rock and dust came up alone. I glared at him, and he began his work again. When he came up again, claiming that he had done the deed, I did blow. But this time, the last refuse and rubble went into the ground through the hole he had created. Seeing that he had spoken true, I dipped my hat to him, and then shifted my form to that of a snake, and slithered into the hole. Even as I did this, Baugi knew his oath was completed, and he had no debt to me now. He punched down with the auger, attempting to stick me. Yet I moved too swiftly for him, and went down into the mountainside, down to the home of Gunnlod. I dropped from the hole in the ceiling, and I rose in the form of a handsome young man. I crept to the side of Gunnlod, who guarded the 3 vats of mead, and I did coo to her, and cover her with lavish praise. Never before had she heard the words of wooing, and Gunnlod swooned before me. She was canny enough, though, and she extracted an oath from me in turn. I would lay with her for 3 nights. Then, and only then, would I sup of the mead. And so, I did. And on the 3rd night, when Gunnlod lay in her bed warm and content from my passion, I crept to the vats 3. I slipped from my form and shifted again, this time into that of an eagle. I dipped my beak once, drinking all of the mead from 1 vat, then twice more, taking all from all. Holding the mead in my throat, I burst from the home of Gunnlod and into the skies. Seeing me leave, Suttung went to the dwelling of Gunnlod, and he discovered my trickery. Long and hard he howled, before rising into the skies as an eagle himself. I sailed to the very walls of Asgard, all the while Suttung on my feather, just behind me. Yet, when Suttung saw my destination, the walls of Asgard filled with my Aesir, he ceased his chase and squawked his rage, but turned away. I landed on the walls, and there 3 vats had been placed for my use, as I had instructed. I brought the mead back up, and spewed it into the vessels 3. There the mead of wisdom would remain, apart from that which I used to increase my own soul, for drink I did. Yet some small splashes came from my beak, and rained down to the lands of Midgard. And so it is that those struck with the drops of mead mixed with my spittle are gifted poorly, for these bards are invariably of the worst caliber. Yet, when I espy a mortal with budding gifts, I once again don my disguise and offer them a drink from a passing old man. Those who sup with me are granted the Othrorir, the mead of wisdom, and soon their abilities grow. Thus am I the giver of scholarly and poetic prowess. I am Odin, lord of shaken spear and broken shield. Yet I am also now granter of the silvered tongue. Hence already I shift my aspect. I become more than I was. Yet, I was not done. Not nearly. For when I imbibed the mead, it gave new vigor to my mind, and through these expansions, I gained new goals. I was now wise, but only a fraction of that of Kvasir, and that was not nearly enough. So, I used my all-seeing eyes to look further, to seek new opportunity. And there did I see him. There did I note him. Mimir. His severed head I had at my side when I was in my lodge, in my halls in Asgard, where I could quiz him when all other counsel had failed. His shade did exist still in the lands of the dead. Deep in the darkest recess, where Yggdrasil's roots fasten, there was a well. Mimir's shade did defend the well of Urd, and in this place he was mighty indeed. Seeing the well of Urd, knowing that I could drink it and gain even more perspective, more wit, more wisdom, I did salivate for its waters. Yet Mimir was intractable, and when I arrived, he blocked my path. In tones as deep as the tomb he whispered to me, "None can walk from this place as they strode within. None can take from this well without also giving." Long I pondered his threat, his challenge. Long I tugged at my beard for that I would give to him in payment. I offered Mimir gold, to which he near laughed. For what use is gold after one's life? I offered him power and stature, honor beyond measure. Yet what use is power to one after their last breath? And so I sat and I tugged, and I wandered my mind for all that I had. And at the last, I was assured. I rose from my place and walked unto Mimir again, and there I took out my left eye. Cutting it from my head with a clean slice, I offered it unto Mimir. With mine eye he would have my sight. All of the visions of the realms would be his. And so he nodded and took my payment. He dipped his drinking horn into the waters and allowed me to sup. I drank my fill and left not a single drop, and off I went again, armed with more of that which I sought. For now I was ever more wistful, ever more wise. I was becoming. Yet one more task lay before me, one last leg of the quest. For as my wisdom grew, so too did my understanding of the ways of the mortals, of the ways of the Aesir and Vanir, of the winds and the waters, the realms entire. I knew more now than I had whene'er I wrought the realms. I knew more of how they moved, what rules they knelt before. Yet I was not complete. I knew only that I did not know enough. I was resolved to end the sorry state of affairs. Elixirs, potions, broths, and meads. They had gained me much, but they were a trifle only. They had merely shown me the path, and it led inwards. I would sacrifice myself to myself. From the deepest depths of Yggdrasil, in the well of Urd, I had found some wisdom. Now, I walked the mighty branches until I reached its very top, and there I began my preparations. I began by inflicting a great wound upon myself, a spear that I thrust into my flesh. Then I tied my leg and threw the rope over the very top of Yggdrasil's topmost branch. I then leapt and suspended myself above the world. upside down. I hung from one leg and looked down on the world that is, all of it, each and every realm. Long I hung, bleeding my life's blood from the self-inflicted wound. None could offer me succor, bid food or aid or even water. I was alone with myself and reality. I hung and swung and looked into the light and the darkness. I was held on the cusp, the very door of death, no longer fully alive, not quite fully dead. I had no water, no food, no thought, for 9 full days. And on the 9th night, the haze finally coalesced. Long had I been unable to clearly see, my pain and privation robbing me of clarity. Yet now, on the 9th night, when I looked down, I saw the stars blurred and then blacken. I saw the lights dim and worlds slacken. And there, where all else was darkness, all was washed away. There formed the first of the images. Sharp lines, sigils, one after another burst into flame beneath me. The hidden words, the hidden runes, that are the dark secret of reality. There I saw them one after another, each a combination of scratches, each a hidden truth, a secret revealed only to me. And with these runes I could make notes and send messages, but this was not their true potence, not their true use, for each had meaning and each had power. And were I to carve their image into great Yggdrasil, then its branches would take this magic, this rune, out into reality. All of the realms were held up by the world tree, so carving into its bark and flesh set this power out to all. I had sacrificed myself to myself. I had died, but remained to accept my own sacrifice. Then, I was fertilized and became wise. I truly grew and thrived. From a word to a word I was led, to a word. From a work to a work I was led, to a work. I had become the All-Father at last. My thoughts like quicksilver, my mind remade. I had become the All-Father at last. I was the sacrifice and the recipient. I was whole at last. For the power of the runes were not parlor tricks, but ways of believing, ways of thinking. Each revealed truths to me that none else could fathom entire. And I bellowed into the night, for now I was more than I had ever been. I was reborn, and this was my first scream of my new living. For now, with the runes, I could heal both body and mind. I could bind my enemies, constraining them and making their weapons useless against me. I could extinguish flames, call lightning, banish malevolent magics and their crafters, could wake the dead, win any lover, and know the minds of others. I would not command due to force, but due to implicit and limitless understanding. To know a thing is to know how to create it, or how to destroy it, or how to manipulate it. Through the runes, I now saw more than I ever had with 2 eyes, and I had finally gained control of that most implacable and obstinate of all, my own soul. I now controlled myself. I had burned away my excess rage, seeping out of me in my blood. I had sacrificed my need for water or food, air or succor, all bested by my 9 days and nights. I had consumed my base passions and instincts in the fires of my pain and sacrifice. I was now in control of my heart and mind, as much as I ever was my own body. I had become. I am now truly the All-Father. Yet, none of this could take me from my destiny. Nothing could save me in the end. For despite my wisdom, despite the runes, the glamours, seeth, and struggles, nothing could take me from the path set down for me. Ragnarok loomed. Not that I knew of it then. That was one last quest, one last search for knowledge. And in my ignorance, I not only created the path myself, but I festooned it with the errors that would hasten its arrival. My poor friend, my blood brother, Loki. Oh, how I pushed you to those deeds, those actions that create the fodder for the last fray. But that is a tale for another time.